Whoa, okay, steady.
Mr. Code, what exactly are you doing?
I'm trying to nail our poster to the wall so that we can see it every day.
And what poster would that be?
The poster from a movie, A Few Good Stallions.
Ah, an instant classic, but you should really be careful on that stepladder.
It's a ladder.
Same thing.
No, it's not.
Look, let's not argue meaningless semantics here. Bottom line, it's a device used to elevate one to a higher plane using a series of interconnected steps. A stepladder.
It's a ladder! Oh crap. Ow. 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 Where did that even come from? Our story opens with Spike having a nightmare to his experience with the bully dragons from Dragon Quest, but is suddenly interrupted by Luna telling him to meet her outside. Though not before this hilarious image. Spike and Luna then travel to Philadelphia, where she informs him that a series of arson events have been occurring, and she needs him to act as an investigator for her, as it seems the city's local dragon populace is accused. A pyromaniac in MLP? Awesome! So we got an interesting setup already. We have the world building with Philadelphia, a sprawling metropolis similar to Manhattan, though the more interesting aspect is that dragons, creatures that are normally feared at large by ponies, live together in the same city. An interesting notion that may suggest that ponykind is becoming more accepting and open to their species. As Luna and Spike land in Philadelphia, we get our first and unfortunately real moment of bonding between the two, which is the main problem with this comic. For a series that's predominantly meant to focus on the interactions and bonding between two different characters, we barely see any interaction or any dialogue exchange between our dragon and Princess of the Night. Luna confides to Spike how she would be an unsuccessful investigator in Dragontown, comparing her poor venture to living in Celestia's shadow, establishing the dichotomy between her and Spike, who is constantly in the shadows of the main six and their adventures, or is just a walking punchline. Speaking of which, he steps on a banana peel and some slime. Pay attention to that, folks. That was actually a plot point dropping like a lead balloon. Same can be said for most of the humor in this comic. Even though the story does play itself more seriously, what comedic elements there aren't really executed that well. Arriving to the crime scene, we come across some colorful characters like officers by the book and Hardcase, your typical hard-boiled cops. And then there's this guy who's a police siren. Huh.
Reminds me of your industrial accident with that valve wheel.
Ugh, don't remind me. Thank goodness that's all out of my system.
Thirsty, Mr. Code?
Huh? Oh, yeah, sure. Thanks, Judge. I was quite parched and... Gah, I'm not a car! Gah. Moving on. The arson location reveals a straight line in the burn floor that's supposedly consistent with a dragon's fire blast. Spike then sets out to Dragontown, which looks like a combination between Chinatown and Bedrock. And we do get a decent amount of unique dragon designs, not just utilizing the palette swap practice with ponies. He starts asking questions, but everyone slams the door in his face. Better dial it back, Spike.
You know what happens to nosy fellows? They lose their noses.
Entering a comic shop, he runs into Mina, the mellow owner of the shop, who can turn into a Luna-obsessed fangirl at the drop of her name. And Mina's probably the most welcome addition to this comic with her dynamic personality. She's passionate about her interests, sometimes to hilarious fanatic levels, but doesn't come off as annoying, as she can dial it back down to earth, yet still hold that enthusiastic attitude. Overall, she's just a fun character to contrast this more darker story. When Spike mentions the investigation with a dragon as the culprit, Mina fires back that just because it was a fire doesn't mean that it was a dragon. Another problem with this comic is its pacing. This is supposed to be a revelation for him to realize that one group of bad dragons does not represent the majority of the species. His ignorant attitude is understandable, as being an impressionable kid, his interpretation stems from his interactions in the hostile environments he was in with the teenage dragons, and judges all dragons thusly. And while Mina successfully turns him, this inner conflict is hastily brought up and resolved in one page, rather than structuring his character development and inner struggle throughout the entire story. Now, he holds no apprehension at talking to other dragons, reducing the tension of the situation. After that, we cut back to the police station where we see Luna working on some paperwork. Yeah, Luna, remember her? She's in this comic too. Spike tells the police it could have been a pony, but that doesn't go over so well, leading to Luna berating him. This is just some awkward characterization for her, and her justifying his failures just comes off as cold and hateful. You did send a kid on his own on an arson police investigation while you were just doing paperwork for some reason and didn't mediate the investigation process with him, so you really can't blame him for his shortcomings. Spike wallows in pity and comes across the dragon curfew in effect and runs into Mina. Again, with this comic's problematic pacing, Spike goes from complete depression to reinvigoration in literally one page. Plus, this page is entirely pointless as it really doesn't establish anything new. Spike then stumbles across another bird trail and our culprit is revealed. And it's the most adorable little arson ever! It's so cute, look at his little face, he's just so cute.
What are you looking at?
Extremely adorable, but very anticlimactic. You have this great setup with tension building from segregation of the dragons, both species on edge, just to reveal that this whole conflict was caused by some random fire snail. Yet at the same time, I can't think of a way to fix this, as obviously a pyromaniac is too adult for a children's comic, and anything else wouldn't yield a satisfying result. So this comic's hands are already tied from concept. Moving on, the snail's fire spreads throughout the building, and it's the dragons to the rescue! So we wrap up our story with the dragons being accommodated, and Mina getting the chance to meet Luna, as she faints in her fangirl moment. This comic ranks pretty low in the Friends Forever series. It has some interesting ideas, but never follows through thoroughly with them with its jumbled pacing and anti-climax. Yet the major problem, again, is this comic's preface in being that this is supposed to be a Luna and Spike comic. I don't feel like the two have a better relationship with their little to no interaction in this story. This comic had potential. New locations, more interactions with dragons, a darker storyline, and of course Spike and Luna bonding. Two characters that don't get much exposure put together in the limelight. All unfortunately falling flat. A forgettable installment in the Friends Forever series.
Forget it, Mr. Code. It's Dragon Town.